Waiting for the sign. Yes, we are live. Finally, we are live. I've been waiting for this live stream for a very long time. Firstly, welcome everyone to the Circle Leadership Headquarters Studios. As always, Dave Clare here live. Normally I go live on a Thursday, but we're live on a Wednesday because we have a very special guest that I've been waiting to talk about. And Vanessa's here. We're going to speak to Vanessa shortly. And really, it's all about her new book, Unreasonable Ambition. And I'm going to tell you, this is an amazing read. I read a lot of leadership books. Obviously, it's one of my passions, but this is one of the best books I've read by far from a personal leadership point of view, but also, surprisingly for me, it was also looking at it from an organizational perspective when I'm thinking about my own unreasonable ambition. So we're going to go through that in a moment, and I'm going to have Vanessa introduce herself as a fellow Canadian. Well, I'm going to...
Oh, thanks, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on your show this morning. I have also been waiting to talk to you. You're just an absolute bomb of energy and just a ball of knowledge. So thank you so much for having me on the live stream this morning.
Before you don't dive into anything yet, I want to do something first before you dive into anything. I know we've got a limited amount of time, but I want to read something else first. I want to read something that's really... before we get in this and we get to know about yourself and everything like that, Vanessa, I'm going to give you plenty of opportunity for that, but I want to read something out first about this. And it is your Unreasonable Ambition Manifesto. And I thought this was such a powerful thing. I wanted to start with this, and people can actually download this, I believe, at your website. And we could talk about that later if people want to get a copy of this. But I want to read it out, okay? We are the unreasonably ambitious. We face life with confidence and courage. We choose to go beyond resilience, pursuing success with unreasonable ambition. Adventure seekers, we are attracted to the thrill of exploring new frontiers and the roads less traveled. No matter how perilous, thinking big and beyond. Energized by unreasonably ambitious agendas, we are the first to lead into the unknown, making it safe for others to follow us. We live a life of awe, wonder, and limitless possibility. We're grateful for all the gifts that we have been afforded. Compelled to go against the grain, we revel in the uncertainty, trusting in our ability to solve impossible challenges against all odds. Rebels with a cause, we are driven to by a higher calling to make a difference in our world. We are relentless and passionate in our pursuits and boldly inspire others to take action. We are humble and copy no one, leveraging our creativity to imagine worlds that don't exist yet for others to play in. Oh, that was one of my favorite parts. We believe in magic and miracles. We have unshakable faith in limitless potential of all people and our planet. We don't run from the storm. We are the storm. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you my friend Vanessa Vershaw, and here to talk about her book, Unreasonable Ambition. Vanessa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. You know, it's so interesting when I wrote that at the end of writing the book to try to do a summation for anybody who would be reading the book. Even hearing it back now, I almost shed tears. I get so emotional hearing that back. And so I hope that it has that impact on others. I hope that people get energized by the manifesto. They download their copy, they have it in front of them, and they use it to just be their North Star as leaders. That's why I wrote it. Have it in front of you. No matter how tough it gets, read it and remember to be the storm, no matter what. So thank you for reading that out.
No, it's my, like, to me, the way I judge a book is if there's something within the first, it's like a song, in the first 15 seconds, if something grabs you, and like I opened up the book, went to think, oh, that's cool. Then I read the manifesto and I just sat there on the manifesto. I'm like, do I even need to read this book now? I felt like I'd already gained so much just from reading that manifesto. And I wrote one 7 years ago, my purpose manifesto as the prophet for purpose and stuff. I said, well, as a prophet for purpose, I should have some prophecy. So I wrote my prophecy, which is kind of like the manifesto for purpose, which was really powerful. So when I read that, I'm like, oh my God, this is so amazing. But Vanessa, please take a few minutes, introduce us to who you are.
Sure.
A question that I'm going to ask you after that, and then we're going to dive into all the dog-eared parts of the book, as many of them as I can get through, and ask you.
Yeah, no, lovely, thank you. So I'll just quickly kick off. Greek, Italian, Dutch, Norwegian. Firstborn generation of Australians to immigrant parents. So that's already, there's a lot in that one, which we could spend a day on. Father, entrepreneur. Mother with a diplomat with the Italian embassy. And so a lot of international travel, flavor, entrepreneurialism from early on. And my life very much has been serendipitous. And so people will often say, how is it that you get to be to where you are today? How did you do it? And that is as a high performing coach and a transformation expert around kind of people and business. And the honest answer is I fell into it. It was totally happenstance. I started off in life actually as a journalist with the ABC as a reporter, and then ended up having an experience, which again is I'm not going to get into, and going back to uni and then getting a scholarship to be a clinician. So a clinical psych working with, some pretty serious mental illness, and realized that I was actually too soft for that, because it takes a very special person to do that job. And I couldn't detach. And then I actually didn't know what to do next. I thought, I tried lawyering, didn't like that, did a bit of medicine, didn't realize I fainted at the sight of blood, couldn't do that. So I was really lost, to be honest. And that's why you'll see, take the road less traveled. There's so much behind that statement, because I have taken the road less traveled and everything. And then someone said to me, my mum said to me, I'll never forget when you were 5 years old, and this will be in the next book. She said, we were at this big party, and we found you at this party, we lost you. And this is going to sound really odd, but you were talking to this guy, this older man at the party, and you were like 5. And I know how this sounds. And you were giving him advice. And there was nothing untoward about it, but you've always had this ability to see and hear and guide and shine the light for people. She said, have you thought about doing something maybe in business? And my mum, because she's a professional, and I said, no. So I went to seek it out, and they said, well, there's this stream of psychology, because there are many called organizational. And they said, what about doing that? And I actually didn't know what it was. I'm not going to lie. I didn't know what a coach was, Dave.
Right.
Being really upfront, I had no idea. I thought, that sounds good. Why not? There's nothing else going at the moment. I'll do a master's and go and get my postgrad in that. And look, and here I am. So it ended up kind of setting the foundation for me to forge a career predominantly in North America, because at that time when I graduated, Australia wasn't ready, didn't even know what an organizational psychologist was, which is hard to tell you, but it's true. And so I thought, screw that, I'm going. I speak French, I speak Italian, let's do it. And Canada came a-knocking and offered me the most extraordinary opportunities from day one. And so that's what
Canada.
Where I am, at Canada, baby. 10 years, Canadian citizen, loved every second, best experience of my professional life, and didn't experience, to be honest, any discrimination. I'm just going to say, I walked straight into a senior management role out of university. Yeah. So my sex wasn't an issue, but in Australia it still was. And so that's kind of what kickstarted my journey in a nutshell.
Wow. Well, thank you for taking us on that whirlwind tour of Vanessa Vershaw's life. And I'm sure there's a lot more in there. And I would love to talk more about that, but I want to dive into the book because really would want people to understand how powerful this book is and what a great read it actually is, and highly recommend everyone grab themselves a copy of it. But so my first question for you then is, why this book and why now?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, the world has changed. We know this. And never before have we experienced so much turbulence in such a short space of time. We're at the point in the human story where we are facing possible extinction, existential threats like never before.
Yeah.
So to try to solve for existential threats with the same reasoning and logic as we have always done is not going to enable us to actually move anything forward. It's going to take something very different, very different types of thinking, being, leading, working together to be able to solve for humanity's existence. And so that's what sparked me to write this book. I'm in these organizations. I'm working with some pretty extraordinary people who are trying to save the planet for the people, and they're immobilized. They are absolutely stiff and immobilized with fear, and nothing is happening. And so privately made it a case study to start thinking about, well, with what we face as a race, what's it going to take? It's going to take unreasonable ambition. It's going to take ambition that goes beyond self to we. And it's going to take unreasonable thinking. It's going to take different thinking, big and bold thinking, to be able to push through all of the gravitational pull of the past and our existing toolkits and our biases and everything that gets in our way from evolution to be able to solve for this big, hairy challenge. And so that's the driver of the book around unreasonable ambition. And then going back and reflecting on all of the leaders I've had the privilege to work with over the past 2 decades and my own story, and thinking about, well, those that are nailing it, those that are moving the world forward or themselves, because it doesn't have to be big, although that was part of the inspiration. What is it that they're doing that's different? And so I actually developed a taxonomy, organizational psychologist, scientist, of attributes around unreasonable ambition that I can actually test for, believe it or not.
Nice.
That's the next, watch this space.
Are they the 10 things that are in the book here?
Yeah, the 10 capabilities. I can test for them psychometrically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And from
I don't know if I should be scared or excited.
And then from that, looking at, well, you know, there are so many books out there that are thought leadership that give you ideas, but how do you actually do it?
Yeah.
How do you do it? So here's how. So that's my gift in the book. Here's how. Here are the 8 mind hacks that you can start working on in yourself that will create exponential evolution very quickly. And so just focus on these eight things for now, and you will absolutely create the life you want and go beyond what you think is possible for yourself. So that's really the essence of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing that. It's because for me, and I think I shared with you at your book launch, like for me, I asked you the question at your book launch, about what's your unreasonable ambition going forward. But and we'll probably save that to the end. But we have one at Circle Leadership. I guess Circle Leadership was formed as part of my unreasonable ambition.
Exactly.
To create and inspire 90 million purpose-driven leaders so that we could impact the lives of 900 million people in the workforce to have more meaningful work and take that sense of meaning back home and shift, the way that they feel about themselves and that, and imagine that with their 2.5 people. And I go, okay, so that's about 2.25 billion people's lives we can impact. We can shift the consciousness of a planet so is that unreasonable ambition?
Absolutely. And I love you for that. You're absolutely unreasonably ambitious. There's no question in my mind. It's why when you invited me and extended the invitation to speak to you today, I jumped at the chance, because you are absolutely what the book represents.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Think about what you're doing for this world. It's amazing.
I think that's what, like, when I read the book, it made me feel better about myself. I think because it just because sometimes I guess people with unreasonable ambitions can feel lonely. You're out there on your own. If you're like, I've talked to you about Trailblazers. I know you used to run a Trailblazers program and all that, but to me, one of my early clairs was, Trailblazers end up with arrows in their backs, but they get the trail named after them, right? So, everyone wants to be the next Uber, the next Airbnb, and, all those organizations and the leaders of those, when they're bringing that into reality. And I think you might even talked about some of those, when they first took step forwards with those things, that people like, no, people didn't believe them. That was just ridiculous what they were thinking. But now everybody wants to be them, right? So it's fascinating for me. I want to read out some bits and pieces of the book here and just get comments on them from you. Okay, so I'm just going to go through. I think we're going to just start in the preface, all right? Because there was a great quote in here, and it was at the bottom of the page, and it said, "To feel ambition and act upon it is the calling of our souls. It's a deep stirring that, when acted upon, puts us on our unique life path. To resist the inner calling is to risk living a life that is less than what we are capable of, and to deny ourselves the gift of living our," flip the page, "best lives." And, when I think about, from a leadership point of view, leadership's all about helping other people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while in your care and beyond. And, for me, this quote would just, I'm like, oh my God, that is so good. You talk to me about that whole, to feel the ambition and act upon is the calling of our souls. Like, by the way, everyone, the book is amazing, but also the way it's written, like it touches you on every level. Like for me, it just speaks to that, to my soul like that. And I'm just like, oh my God, like it's not just a great book, but it's written in such a way that it'll touch you as a human being. So I also commend you on how it was written.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Yeah, look, that soul leadership is something that I'm very passionate about. And I almost wrote a book about leading with soul, and then I realized Bowman and Deal had written one, although they hadn't written it quite the way I would. That's another one.
Yeah.
And I think, it's that supernatural part of humanity that we don't talk about. It's that intuition that's got such a dirty word, although people are starting to talk about it now. And yet I know that great things happen when you combine intuition and logic. And we actually need both to make the right decisions and the right calls that align with us in a sustainable way. But we don't listen. We often don't listen. We discount our intuition. We discount that inner wisdom, that whispering that says to us, no, don't do it, or that guy's an asshole, don't date him. Like we actually know already.
Yes.
But we don't listen. And when we don't listen, that's when shit goes down. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And so that's what that's about, is you actually, I truly believe, as naive as this may sound to some of the listeners, I believe that you actually already have the answers. I do.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Right? And when I'm coaching someone, I don't come from the space of, I'm all that in a bag of chips. I don't know. I want to know what you think.
Yes.
Let's tap in here. What is this telling you? How does it align with this? And let's go. And I will always source where the information is coming from to make sure that the person is acting in a way and deciding in a way that aligns those different parts of self, body, mind, and spirit. We've got to listen to all of those sources of information. But we don't. And when we don't listen, we end up doing shit with our lives that is totally off-piste with what we truly want. And however that ends about, whether it's because people tell us we need to, or we're socialized, or conditioning, or because it's the practical thing to do, or because you're good at something. Being good at something doesn't necessarily mean you should follow it as a career either. No. I'm great at stats. That shocks people. I'm a bloody great statistician. I hate it. I hate it. I don't want to validate psychometric tools for a living. But a lot of people do what they're good at, not what they love. And that's
100%. Yes. And I think that's the small difference between, there's things we love to and things we are like bloody amazing at. And and then there's the things that we're really great at. And then people try to spend time doing that rather than the things they love, or the things that they could become, that their soul would be set on fire. And it's funny because, Oprah talked years ago about, the whisper. And that
it
even
is a
for me,
whisper. I didn't know that.
She talks about the little whisper. And it was funny. That was way back. Probably you were too young to remember that back in my days, though, when we were. But it was when I moved to Canada, and I had a career in banking and finance here in Australia. Please don't hold that against me. And then my time in Papua New Guinea. Then I came back, And when I went there, it was like to try and find another job. But the whisper was like, Dave, when are you actually going to go and do what it is you really want to do with your life? When are you actually going to finally, and, like in all the people around me and the pressures around me, family and whatever, were saying, no, get a job, be safe, the conditioning influences and the beliefs, which leads me on to the whole part, which in the introduction, you put, our brains trick us into staying the same. They think they're doing us a favor and protecting us from harm. And the conditioning, I talk about the conditioning influences we received. So my conditioning influences was, son, get a good job, get a, career. My dad, bless him, he went into some businesses and franchises, and through no fault of his own, the franchisor collapsed into the businesses that he had his franchises in, and it put the family under tremendous pressure. And so for that, he's telling us as kids, go get a job with a telco, a bank or anything. And then so that was deep and entrenched into us. And then when I wanted to get out on my own, my brain's trying to tell me, no, that voice, other people's rules are telling me. So can you talk about just that quickly, about our brains trick us into staying the same?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I hear what you're saying around that as well, because mine was doctor or lawyer. I had to be a doctor or a lawyer to be respectable, right? Yeah, absolutely they do. I mean, it's like the whole thing around weight loss. You try to lose weight and then you hit it, you go really hard, you lose it for a period and then you hit a plateau. And people wonder why they plateau. And it's because the brain starts to tell you, stop, don't do it, have pain. It tries to keep you where you are for protection, because we crave as human beings certainty and stability. Okay. And so I often say to people who come to me, I give them the analogy of, when you're feeling tired after a hard day at work and your brain is telling you don't exercise, which is actually exactly what you need, understand it's not your body that's tired, it's actually your mind. Yeah. And if you were to push past that and get out onto the pavement and throw your running shoes on, which is what I do every day, and push past it, you will find that within 5 minutes, you will be absolutely sprinting. Our mind tries to keep us the same. And so that's around fear as well. Fear keeps us the same. But as I say to people, fear is always disproportionate these days to the threat. Nobody's going to eat you. Nobody's going to chase you, in most situations, particularly at work. And all that, I know we have gone through some big things, but in essence. So understand that the first step in evolution is actually arguing with yourself. You've got to argue with yourself and say, screw you. I'm not listening to you. You're not keeping me the same. And I know that you're just trying to trick me, and wrestle with yourself and get the hell out there and go for a run. So it's just understanding that your body and your brain will always try to keep you safe and warm and comfort and cuddly. But if you want to evolve, and again, it's about choosing the road less traveled. It's saying, screw you, I'm not listening. I actually want to evolve, so I'm going to go for that
road. You never have to argue with me about evolution. I've been, from organizational perspective, I've been pushing the evolution banner for 6 years now. Everyone's starting to get on the bandwagon about it, which is great. And I think that's really important. We talk about your mind's function is to keep you sane. It will always move you to the dominant picture that you have of yourself, right? So if the dominant picture is who you are today and it has no other picture to compare to, well, then guess what? It's going to keep you there. And by nature, we all seek out pleasure, comfort, and entertainment. So that's the thing we're fighting against. So how do we, and we don't need to answer this now, but just for people to understand that you need to create a new dominant picture for your life. And that's why your manifesto or your mantras and stuff that you talk about in here is so critical, because that's actually about imprinting the new dominant picture. So your mind goes, oh, crap, me sitting here on the couch eating a bag of chips is not actually that. Get off your arse and go for a run or go for a walk and do that. Or whatever it is, go lift some weights or go do some work or whatever it is that's going to move you to that, because it will then kick you in and move you to that dominant picture. Because the ones we have are been imprinted into us, and we can imprint anyone we want, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's why we resist feedback, right? Feedback is a gift. Very few people think feedback is a gift. Let's keep it real here. If you get to that point, that's great. You're evolved. Most people freaking hate feedback, because feedback is the reality check, and it's, oh shit, I have to do something now or not. So they prefer kind of not to hear it. And that's why I always talk about evolving your mind is the first place to
Yeah.
start with true transformation. And I
Yeah.
call it heavy lifting. It is the
Yeah.
hardest thing you will ever have to do in your life. But much like somebody who just has the discipline to train their body and stay fit and healthy, it's a discipline. Training your brain is a discipline, much like going to the gym, and we have to treat it as such.
Yeah, and I think that's why the mindset piece in your book goes from chapter 9 through to chapter 30, and the other ones have like 4 or 5 chapters for each, but mindset has the big one. So it's really important to understand. Now, we're not going to get through all. There's too many nuggets in this book for me to. There was one part. I'm not going to go into it, but there's just if you're grabbing this book, everyone. There's so many. No, it's not just great content, but there's actually tools and things that you can actually work through in here. So there's the 6 C's of capabilities, which I'm not going to go through, but they're in there and they're really important. I want to talk about those 10 attributes though, because I know we're getting close to at least half an hour here. You said these 10 attributes that I believe set unreasonably ambitious leaders apart. So driven and speedy, agile and restless, gritty and tenacious, love it. Delusional, love that. A rebel with a cause, unconstrained, passionate and inspiring, humble and genuine, an adventure seeker, and a sense of wonder and possibility. Can you just is that the stuff that you're building your psychometric thing on, those 10 attributes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've built.
Can I be tested?
Yeah, well, I'm going to start validation. So I'm working with an assessment house to build the tool to actually, because obviously validation has to happen over time.
Yeah.
But really looking at even a bit of a tool to help people get a bit of a read on where they are in each of those attributes. And I think there are so many to go through there, but one of the ones, so one of the ones that I think is probably lesser known and probably most surprising that people have been telling me is the inner child thinking. So talking about inner child thinking and belief in magic and miracles, right?
The sense of wonder and possibility.
Wonder and possibility, which sounds very fluffy, but it really is part of being unreasonable ambition is about seeing the world through the eyes of a child and actually looking at the world through the view of surprise and delight and finding beauty and joy and happiness in the little things. And one of the things I really notice about the unreasonably ambitious, and yourself included, they have a high sense of playfulness, a naughtiness about them, a cheekiness about them. They don't take themselves too seriously. They have perspective and they really try to have fun in everything that they do. And they're up for just about anything. And that's what I love. Do you want to do this? Yeah, why not? It's not no. It's not the Chicken Little no, which is a lot of people. Oh, no, why would I do that? They don't worry about looking silly. They just go and do it. Who cares? And there's a lot of confidence. There's a lot behind that psychologically, right? To be like that. Because to do that means you have to have a high level of self-acceptance. So let's be clear. There's so much behind that. So that's kind of the big one. The other one is around, it's not enough to just be cognitively brilliant and emotionally intelligent. You actually have to execute. And it's the difference between a child prodigy or a prodigy I've worked with in the past who flips burgers for a living today and a mediocre, and sorry to be rude, but a mediocre talented leader who's now a billionaire. The difference between success and failure from a leadership and a business perspective that I've seen is that you do something with it. You know what your gifts are, you know how to access them, and you use them. You use everything you got. But it's really interesting, and I wonder what your experience is too, Dave. When you meet leaders some leaders for the first time or people for the first time, they actually don't know what their gifts are.
No,
they
don't.
Me.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Most of them are in a business that they got into by default or whatever, that they just started and they're not even pursuing their passions or what they're, it's fascinating to me. I think this is really, really important thing that we really would love people to understand is that, if you go back through the pandemic, and I loved it in here, and you're talking about, how people can look at something and see things differently and, having the right mindset for everything. When the pandemic hit, business had just been like 2 years into it, we really got some really great stuff happening, and I'm a human being, so I'm not immune to anything that human beings feel. Even though I'm unreasonably ambitious in my own right, it doesn't mean I don't feel these things. But for me, it's like, how long does it take me to respond to? And so I sat there and I remember like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm going to lose all my clients now. They're all going to want to shut their businesses. I'm going to have no business. I'm not going to be able to. And I'm like, oh, why am I thinking like that? So, it's victim versus victor. So is it happening to me or happening for me thinking? And I flipped my whiteboard around, wrote the word opportunity on it, and instantly went to work going, well, what's the opportunity here? Because there's always opportunity in something. So it took me back to all the stuff you were writing there, took me back to that moment going, holy crap, this is so powerful.
And that is such a big differentiator, right? That is such a big part of being unreasonably ambitious. Even if you don't know the answer, so that's delusional in that moment.
Yeah.
What you do have confidence in is your ability to figure it out.
Yeah.
And, and that's the difference. It's being okay with not knowing and saying, I'm okay with not knowing. I know that I do not know, and I'm going to own that. But you know what? I'm a pretty bright person. I can figure out a way to do this or to do this differently. Or God forbid, I'm going to ask for help. Oh, my word. I'm going to ask for help from someone and start talking to people that are far more successful, better than I am in this particular area. I'm going to seek out knowledge and wisdom because my ability is execution, which a lot of them don't have. I'm going to grab those ideas, bring them in, and I'm going to implement those, baby. And that is the difference.
Yeah. And I think that's there's so many things that people I speak to about from execution. We have our fast execution methodology. We've developed actually a methodology to execute. But, we said like ideas are easy. Execution is everything. Jeff Hoffman said to me, he said, Dave, ideas are welcome, but execution is worshipped. So like you not only the ability to have the ideas, but the ability to execute on them or bring in a team or whatever, rally people around a cause or a calling to help execute it. You don't have to do it all yourself. I think is really powerful. Now, I appreciate that we're out of time technically. I just want to read out a bunch of quick quotes just for the listeners and viewers, and you can just smile happily as I share some of the wisdom of your book. There's some things that just struck me here. There is nothing soft about leading people. And I know Tom Peters has written, 20-something books over 40 years, and every book of his has the same theme. Hard is soft and soft is hard. Right. And he just keeps telling people the same thing. And, that there's nothing soft about leading people. That's the hard work. And that was really powerful for me. So just some of the nuggets that you're going to get by grabbing this book. Our neural programming can become an enemy to our adaptability if we don't learn how to rewire it. That was the most psychological or org psych statement I read in the book. The rest of it's all. Blinded by disruption. Like quite simply, if you don't evolve, you will quickly become irrelevant. Business models are changing faster than ever before. They were talking about Kodak's demise and all that sort of stuff. But this is so powerful. This is the stuff that I've been preaching for years, and just so great to hear somebody else driving this in the world. I love the whole VUCA versus tuna. Like I've never heard of tuna. So the turbulence, I thought that was amazing. Just a couple other cool nuggets in here. Radical change requires radical action. It's almost like every single one of my personal values are actually in this book. So radical is like, I value radicality, like being radical. It's one of my personal values. Fun is one, finding the joy in everything. Like that's my definition of fun. It's finding the joy in everything. So you got to make it fun, find a way to make it fun. Right. And I actually went through the whole values part in the book here, and I highlight, and all my values except for radical were in the book.
Amazing.
But that's just me. Yeah,
radical's not in there. Oops.
yeah. Well, in the list. In the list.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So then we were just talking about that. When our brain sees daily problems, is it change as a challenge or change as a threat? I thought that's really important. Like take it as a challenge. Like there's so many nuggets in here. I love this here. Hierarchical structures, sluggish organizational processes, and command and control cultures are the greatest barriers to fast action. You need to kill and hide bureaucracy fast. Like this is getting into some of the businessy side of the things here. And that's why I thought, oh, this is all amazing. Then I go, oh my God, there's so much business stuff in here. It's like so great. Yeah, well, I'll leave with this one, and then we'll wrap up. Unreasonably ambitious people take great joy even from the smallest of wins. So we think, I thought that was so powerful when you think about unreasonably ambitious. They're thinking big and all this, but we still find joy in the little wins. And this is why I tell people, like, if you don't acknowledge the little wins, every time you acknowledge the little win, you can stand on top of that, and then stand on top of the next little win, and all those add up. Rather than looking at this massive thing going, how the heck am I going to get up there? Well, you're going to get up there by standing on one small win at a time and build your ladder of success to whatever that is. And I thought, wow, that is, because everyone thinks big and ambitious is massive, but it's about celebrating the little wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many stories in there of, unreasonably ambitious success stories that I've stood alongside for many years. And that's how they've done it. They've done it by chunking up the wins and cultures of celebration. That's how we build collective resilience. Celebration is critical to collective resilience at scale in an organization. You've got to celebrate stuff.
Yeah.
People can't keep going. And look, the scourge of perfectionism, right? The scourge of perfectionism is perfectionists don't acknowledge the good work that they've done. Don't smell the rosebuds. And so there's always this churn of restlessness, which results often in psychosomatic responses, mental health issues, high in perfectionism. I call perfectionist mindset equals hemorrhage. That's what I call it. It's a hemorrhage of a situation. And so important to have those cultures of celebrations and not be Ebenezer Scrooge, bar humbug.
Yeah.
Lose the Ebenezer, people.
Yeah. Yeah, we just onboarded a new client, and they've got so much work on right now that as soon as they're finished the one job on like the Friday, they're already sending them to the next site that afternoon to get started on the next one and the next one. And they're a stage where their team are getting, their team are a little bit burnt out. They're a bit tired. And I'm like, have you ever thought of just stopping for a moment and just like, pull up a barbecue, put on a sausage sizzle or something like that, and celebrate the completion of that job? And some of the jobs I've done they do very big, epic work. And, like they've done some stuff for Porsche and these big fancy things. And I'm like, have you ever just taken the guys over there and just sat there and, had a pizza and just sat there and just watched and let them just take a look at the great work you've done? Oh, we've got so much other work we got to get on to. And I'm like, you won't have anybody to do the work soon.
No.
Because you're not giving them a chance to see the success, feel the success, have a moment to just breathe and relax and appreciate why they're doing what they're doing, not just doing the do. When they can look back and go,
even from a strategic lens, though, Dave, when you share that story with me, I'll tell you what else I hear. I hear that probably the executive is on the tools, so very inefficient, and likely not carving out space for, hovercraft thinking, which is what I call it, because they're always, and, there is a quote, I don't know if you picked up on it, it's probably one of my favorites from Jeff Melanson in the book, and he's a global strategist, he's incredible. And I asked him how he does it, and he said quite simply this, and it's just the last one, I know we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
I said, how do you do it? He said, to listen to the future and to see the moves of the world, you have to stand still.
Yes, I remember that. Well, that was,
So stand still so you can see the moves of the world and listen to the future. And that is your absolute mantra as an executive. You must prioritize stillness. You must to be able to do what you need to do at that level. And if you don't, you're a freaking fool. And I say that. I tell my clients, don't be a fool right now. I'm not loving you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is so powerful to, now I'm going to allow you to finish up, but there's one chapter I haven't, just so everyone knows, I haven't finished the whole book yet, that I've got that much there left to go. I could have stopped after the first chapter, or even the introduction, even the preface, I could have stopped and got so much value. But we did talk at the beginning before this live stream started about the one last chapter then. And so I'd like you to talk about that. And then also please just share where people can get this, how they can learn more about you, everything like that. And then we'll wrap that up in the last 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Dave. The last chapter is one of the most provocative in the book, I think, because it's called God Has Left the Building. And I have not hidden the fact that I have a very strong faith and I'm a very spiritual person. And people often say to me, how is it that you're so positive? Your energy's infectious. How do you do it? How do you stay so happy and focused? And look, I'm not happy all the time, obviously, but a big part of it is my faith. Now, this is not mumbo jumbo. A big part of peak performance, in fact, at the pyramid, at the apex of the high performance pyramid, is spirituality as the strongest and most powerful way to actually renew your energy and regenerate yourself. And so whatever that means to you, you have to find it. The chapter about God Has Left the Building is about simply this. If you are not spiritual, if you don't believe in something, if you don't have a faith, then what is replacing it for you? And this is my worry. And that's what this discussion is in the last chapter of the book. You need to find something to care about. Unreasonable ambition, right? If you aren't faith-driven, if you aren't faith-inspired, if you're not a spiritual person, you think it's rubbish, you cannot sustain yourself if you don't believe in something bigger, or you aren't driven by a higher calling or something that is bigger than you. We know this for a fact. And those people that do have a much happier life, are more fulfilled, are higher performing, and nail it much more frequently than others. The science is there. So whatever it is that you need to find to compel you to care about something that is bigger than you are, then that's the first piece of work you need to do. And that's why I left it to the end. Mine is faith, spirituality, and these things. But what is your thing? Find what that is.
Yeah.
Where can you find the book? It's on every single digital site right now. It's also in top bookstores. It's in, if you're calling in from US or Canada, it's in Barnes and Noble over there, like physically in the store. And to contact me, LinkedIn Vanessa Vershaw or www.reinventionconsulting.com.au.
Okay, let me just put that link in I'll put a link in here in the chat.
Anyone that wants a signed copy that is actually on the call today, please reach out to Dave.
Yes.
And I will arrange to get that to you. So it's $34.95.
I have a signed copy and you're not having mine.
He does. So if you would like a personally signed copy with an inscription, I'm more than happy to do that. I think I've got about 50 copies left here. I've got to get some more because I've sold them all.
I can see some on the shelf behind you too.
Yeah, I've got some there. But if you would like one, please let Dave know and I'll be happy to arrange that for you.
Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure.
Vanessa, I'm going to ask you one last question, and I think I may have told you I would ask you this. What is your now unreasonable ambition? What is the next thing for Vanessa Vershaw? Leave us with one big, inspiring, can't accomplish alone. Give us your unreasonable ambition.
I'm trying to tackle mental health at scale. I'm trying to help humanity build the tools to build their collective resilience and tackle mental health at scale in organization. Wow. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
That is huge. Well, if there's anything we can do to assist with that or promote that or share that, the team here at Circle Leadership will be right there beside you, helping you with that. All right.
Thank you so much, Dave. This has been so much fun. I can't believe it's 45 minutes. It's
I know.
I'm having such a good time.
Yeah. I was thinking we'll block out half an hour, we'll do a thing. And then I'm reading through the book the past week. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get through it. So many nuggets. Like you can see all the dog ears people. Like, and that's just the stuff I wanted to discuss, not all the other stuff I took out of it. So get your copy of Unreasonable Ambition. The link is actually here in the live stream if you want it. If you'd like Vanessa, just shoot me a message and Vanessa will actually sign your copy for you if you're local, or I'll get it to me and I'll get it shipped over to you. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us, but also for having an unreasonable ambition and helping all of us with it to understand it more and also to inspire others to do that. The world needs more Vanessa Vershaws or V2s. All right. V squared. Right. So like that.
I love it.
Yeah. That's why I just call you V2. Yeah. And please get your copy of Unreasonable Ambition, available everywhere, and go after your dreams and listen to the whispers.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.